Are we on camera, Emery? It is 4:30. We're going to call the meeting to order. Mr. Chairman, we have letters and communication to the board.
Yeah, just mostly there are articles about the board and everything, but nothing. I think you've all seen them.
There's a nice article about the application for the state fund
Yes.
for the airport.
Yes.
Exciting. Did anybody have any comments, questions on that? Okay. Tony?
Good.
No. Nicole? Yeah. All right. We have approval of the board minutes, Mr. King.
Yep, I reviewed those and they appear to be in order, so I would move for their approval.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Anne Marie, can you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Coffin,
Yes.
Ms. Cook Dixon,
Yes.
Ms. Whitten,
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli,
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. So then we go to reports. We have anything from the personnel?
Yes, we do.
Oh,
I
good.
do have a report. The Personnel Committee met on September 29th. Our task was to conduct interviews for 2 open positions. The first one being the Director of Economic Development, the second one being the Senior Accountant. The applicant for Director of Economic Development position did not possess adequate and necessary skills and experience for this position. So the recommendation from the Personnel Committee is to increase the salary that we offer to reach the level of candidate that we hope to attract. So we will be moving forward on that in a later resolution. Qualified candidate was chosen for the position of Senior Accountant. This candidate has asked for an extension of time to accept or reject our offer. So that will be that will happen within a few more business days. We will take action one way or the other regarding that. And that's all I have.
Good. Any questions?
Do we have to wait then for the next board meeting if the candidate did choose next week to come on board?
I was hoping we could do like a virtual or like
We could do a special meeting.
Right,
Yeah, to
like
get it done. We've done that in the past.
yeah, like special business, right?
Right.
A special meeting, or could we approve her like retroactively in that case, or would we need a special meeting?
It would probably be a special meeting.
Okay.
And then we would also, if it was a denial, then we would also have to do a special meeting for more advertising funds
For
and,
that?
right,
Yes.
Oh,
to repost.
mhm.
So
Have you guys come together on what salary range, or are we still?
I think the
Debating.
senior accountant will probably, our salary range will
stay.
I'm sorry, I
from,
meant for the business director. I apologize.
yes, I think we're
Okay.
looking at 85,000.
All right. And it was 60 or 65?
65.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's more in line with what we're trying to do.
Right.
It's good.
Especially to really attract the candidates with experience. You know, if they're coming from another area or leaving a position, we really want to be competitive to attract, you know,
Well, that,
qualified candidates.
yeah, that position requires so many different skill sets that it's important. Thank you, Jen.
All right.
All right. Finance committee?
You've received copies of the August financials, and perhaps you noticed that the utility expenses were below budget in every department, and Patty will comment on that and explain what's cooking with that. We did ask or discuss financial statements once we get into a new year. And I have asked her to consider a presentation that would show not only comparison of actual to budget, but also comparison to prior year. And I do that with a little reluctance because I know that as soon as you start adding columns, it both adds work, but also makes the statement more complicated. So this is an ongoing discussion. As far as the details of the financials go, I'd ask Patty to make her presentation and cover the things that she thinks are highlights and then open it up to questions.
If you look at the statement of financial position, our
phone call from our department and actions filed on your social security. When you get this message, kindly
We're getting feedback on the remote. Is anybody got anything open up? It sounds like a phone or something. I don't know if you heard it also, but could just check any electronic devices or anything, please.
Sorry, Patty. I think we're okay now. Go ahead.
on the cash reserves and other restricted accounts, that number has come down about $337,000. That is because we had payments out of one of the accounts. One of the accounts is restricted only to project payments. And when those payments are then made, that restricted account will get lower. Other than that, that restricted account has remained the same. Our accounts receivable are at the 221,000 mark that you see. 91% of our accounts receivable is either current or 1 to 30 days. So we're still keeping a watchful eye on the accounts receivable. Our one salt company is down to only having $91,000 outstanding, and that is current. Grants receivable are at 32,000. Most of our grants turn around within about 30 days. So this number fluctuates a little bit each month. Our construction in progress, of course, those are projects that are not completed. When they are, they will move off of construction in progress to fixed assets. They are number 2 on your subsequent schedule. And you'll notice that there are 4 projects that take up 23 million of the 24 million. And there are a lot of little projects that take up the remainder. Our accounts payable are at 538,000 right now. We owe nothing to the New York State retirement system.
Yay, that's very exciting.
It is. We paid it off 3 months earlier than we did last year. And we have a couple of opportunities to put some money away if we're lucky to actually make a big down payment on that this coming year. Our entitlement grant for the airport has just one vendor left. That right now, my assumption is that it will disappear when we've had the training on the equipment. I'm going to try and get our consultant to break this invoice into 2 invoices so that we only leave a small portion left for the training, and the bulk of this invoice will be paid. The Tiger grant bridge repair we have 1 invoice out to be reimbursed currently. Otherwise, we're doing pretty well with that. And that, as far as I know, is on task and will be completed mid-October unless something goes wrong. Then on your second page, well, actually the bottom of your page, your long-term debt, I've just given you the top 5 debt instruments. if you're interested in exactly what is in the debt. Any questions on the statement of financial position? Okay, we'll go to the budget to actual. At the finance committee, I was asked if I could break out the airport revenue into revenue and fuel sales. And then down in the expenses, we also have the fuel sale expense so that we can see the general expenses and the general income from the airport. And then we can see the fuel sales separately. The fuel sales have been very brisk, very high. So we're actually quite pleased with the amount of fuel we've been able to sell. And when you go down to the bottom, you'll notice that we've made a reasonable profit on the sale of our fuel this year. Otherwise, there are a couple of items that we're trying to keep well below budget. You'll notice that our bridge maintenance expense is well below budget. That's partly due to the fact that the bridge is being repaired, so a lot of the items that we might have taken on as bridge repair are already being taken care of for us. Our utility expenses are below budget. I have found that we are missing 2 solar invoices in the system. We just received them from the vendor, so we will be adding those in for this month, and that will bring these up. Not a great deal, so far we're doing quite well in keeping below budget on pretty much everything. The salt has very much offset the loss of the wind turbine project, and we're grateful for all the salt that has been delivered in lieu of that project. If you look at, just a note for you, we have finished the CARES Act subsidy. That grant was closed in September. I am going to continue to call it CARES Act reimbursement. We are now using the CRSSA grant. We have submitted for our first CRSSA grant. That one is about half of what our CARES Act was. So we will have that for approximately a year.
Is it the same general,
All the same specifications that we had before.
just a different name?
Yes,
And less money.
it was another, like the second,
Second generation of the CARES Act?
yes.
I gotcha. Okay.
Any questions on the budget to actual?
Tony and Nicole?
Patty, I have a question. My understanding is that the reason why the railroad revenue is low is that the railroad itself has failed to provide some information that they traditionally do.
We just received their audit report.
Okay,
Now that we have the audit report, we know the number of rail cars or traffic as they call it.
Yeah.
So we can now send them an invoice for that.
Yeah.
And that invoice, we will not receive any funding. We will not actually receive any monies for it. We have a liability with them for the rental of the locomotive. So we're simply going to apply what would have been gained from this to the liability of the locomotive.
mhm. Good.
That's, I don't think of anything else. No, I think we're good.
It's exciting news on the retirement bill.
Yeah, you remember where we were a year and
yeah.
a half ago.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Patty did a great job of just keeping it organized, and even to tackle last year's was pretty amazing in spite of where we were. So,
especially after the last year and a half.
yeah.
Well done, Patty.
Yeah. I feel like we should have
Small
confetti
victory.
cannons or
Yeah.
something like that.
Small victories, we
really-
take them all.
Not such a small victory though. That's
Even though it's something we're supposed to
big
do.
one.
It's nothing.
Yeah, it's been a struggle and a half.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. What else do we have? All right. We're on to the bridge and traffic report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On the bridge crossings, it's pretty much not a whole lot has changed from the previous month. Even with the change in some of the Canadian requirements are allowing vaccinated, we haven't really seen anything, a slight uptick, and it hasn't been escalating and traffic hasn't been increasing. I don't know, it's like there's a lot of chatter for a long time and it's just kind of died down. People are resigned to this situation continuing. I don't want to say what I think now because I'm a little frustrated with that, but I just, a lot of people that I talk to, even with the bridge and tunnel people, they're the same way that, they're resigned to, we've asked and pleaded and I don't know, maybe the U.S. government will surprise us. We're hoping by the end of the year, maybe by Christmas or something, but I really can't give you any kind of, one thing, just like the U.S. has done with their transportation and rural, they required full vaccination for people involved. Canada's doing the same thing with their customs and border protection people. So that's something that they've instituted. So it's kind of the same at both borders for people that are working around there or associated with that. So that's something a little new. But in normal times, this weekend would be Thanksgiving weekend. It'd be a little bonus for us going into the holidays. But truck traffic stayed pretty steady. We have had an increase in trucks hauling the LRT for Ottawa, their cars, their
The rail cars.
rail cars or passenger cars. And so that's been, we get those a heavy oversized load and we get good money for that. So that's been a little bit of a bonus.
And we had some dredgers come across that will be trucked to Maryland. From Canada, put on a ship and then taken down to Mexico. So we actually had to have the bridge closed for them. They had to come through about 6:30 in the morning before we had a great deal of traffic, and then they had to be inspected by the state police, things like that. So we've had some interesting crossings lately.
Just to update you on the bridge construction project, we anticipate the 14th that the night closures will end. So that would mean all the decking's in, and then there's a few items that within the next month will be taken care of, and then we'll do a substantial completion inspection on that project. So I would say by mid-November, everything will be wrapped up there, and we'll have a U.S. approach that'll be in way better shape than it was 4 or 5 years ago. So that'll be a big bonus to our bridge maintenance crew. Like Patty said, the one thing, we were getting so much more done in that project in 1 year that it was a perfect time to slow down on bridge maintenance and expenditures there and just deal with the immediate things. So the main one we're working on right now is getting the lights back up and running. And then part of that project, the U.S. approach had old sodium vapor lights. And when we were taking them down in that project, it was noted by the electrical contractor, why don't you replace those with LED? So the project has enough in the budget that the Cobra heads, that's what they're called when they overhang, we're converting the whole U.S. approach to LED lighting. We don't have enough to do the whole bridge. It might look a little awkward. You know how you've noticed when you go through small towns now, it's nice, but it's not that huge lighting, but it's also down lighting. So the bridge will look a little different there until maybe we take it on ourselves to complete that. But those are the kind of the that's the plus we got out of that, so.
Well, that transition to LED lighting is promised to save on electricity enough so that it pays for itself after a fairly short time.
Sure, and you're using it, if you check the wattage of what you use, you're probably maybe by a factor of 4 or 5 that you're reducing your energy usage
Yep.
for the same amount of lights.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible. And that's a big, especially going into the winter when we do get a pretty good electric bill there, but anything. And when we upgraded 10 years ago,
Mhm.
that reduced our, over what we had out there, 40-year-old lights.
Yep.
So anyway.
Steve, who will do the inspection?
We've got a 4-year contract with Parsons Engineering out of New York.
Yep.
They've done the 2020 biennial. Then in between biennials, we have to do, it's called an in lieu inspection. In other words, you go and look at the work that you did, that they pointed out in 2020.
Yep.
And they say, yep, they blessed us. And then they do a report on that. Then they'll come back in 2022 and do a biennial, and probably they have to do a bridge inventory because we've done a construction project. So that'll be a little bit more complicated.
I was thinking about accepting the work.
On our behalf, Parson does it on our behalf, and it's all submitted to the state.
Yeah.
If we had in-house people and in-house engineers, and we could do it, because we're the owner, we could do that.
Yeah.
But we just haven't had that.
But it really calls for technical
Yes.
capacity and.
And it's changed quite a bit in 10 years, the requirements of what's asked both federally and by the state. So it's reassuring, but that project right now will upgrade the rating on the bridge. You get an overall rating, and when the newer factors figure into it, it raises that rating so that, a 50-year, what we were rated at 50 years was a lot lower than I think what will come out of the next rating that we do.
Great.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Tony or Nicole? Okay.
No, thank you, Steve.
All right, Stephanie, we have an airport activity and occupancy report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The occupancy report has not changed from last month. We are full, with the exception of 2 small spaces in the hold room for concessionaires. And as of yet, we've not had really good traffic to entice concessionaires to come back. As far as the traffic report goes, we are down about 500 folks from the month of August. I contribute that to September being a traditionally slow month for passengers. And also the schedule has changed with SkyWest, and the morning flight goes out later, and there's a mid-afternoon or evening flight. Folks can't get to DC early enough to catch their early connections or their meetings. And the same with the afternoon flight. And this month, starting Tuesday of this week, they have changed their schedule, so they do not have a RON aircraft or remain overnight aircraft. They fly in the morning, do a quick turn, take their passengers out, and then come back in about 7:30 in the morning or 7:30 in the evening, and do a quick turn, and they're out by 8 o'clock in the evening. And I've talked to them. The station manager here has talked to them about it being inconvenient for our community. So far, they've not changed it. I was told that come November, there will be a change, but nothing has been official yet. So I'm not quite sure. We're already into the first week of October, and I don't know what the schedule will be starting the first week of November.
The reason for that change was their own
It
dealers
was
that slotting it.
It was a combination of things. They told me lack of aircraft, lack of crew, lack of slots, and just the overall system-wide scheduling.
It seems as if it must interfere with the capacity for passengers to make plans, to have the timing change from
Yes.
one month to another.
Yes.
Especially with holidays coming up. Holiday
And-
travel, people are gonna wanna start getting that.
Right. They do have a schedule and you can book flights, but they will let folks know if the flight time changes,
Mhm.
they will upgrade or let folks know what the changes are. They generally go about 3 months. So October, November, December, I'm afraid won't change dramatically, maybe 15 minutes one way or another.
Mhm.
But normally they go in a 3-month block. But there again, I was told one thing and the station manager was told another, so I'm not quite sure. I think maybe they're in flux too.
Sure.
With the Delta variant and passenger habits changing again. So I'm not quite sure how we're gonna go with that. Any
And
questions?
you had mentioned potentially they're thinking about Chicago.
Yes.
On flight, I guess.
Yes, not a,
Still considered, or that's just tossed out?
they're considering, when traffic picks up again and because it is
It certainly would be very convenient for our community.
absolutely.
Because trying to come in from the west is not easy.
Difficult.
Even,
With the current schedule through
Right.
Dallas.
right, and going and going west is very inconvenient for folks too. And that Chicago flight was so nice and they were doing better business with the Chicago flight than the DC flight when they had it. So,
It's make me wonder, huh?
well, they put all their stations, put it all in the pot and
Mhm.
mix it up to see where they have aircraft, where they have crews, where they have
Sure.
the business.
Stephanie, I think, at the finance committee meeting, there was some talk about, you were gonna look into, the possibility of taking care of Canadian snowbirds as far as, can you
Yes.
speak to that?
Yes,
Just introduce people that weren't there at the meeting.
we have a lot of Canadian citizens who want to go south for the winter. Right now, they cannot cross by land. They can, however, come by air. A big deal has been made out of the business in Buffalo that goes from Niagara Falls, Hamilton to Niagara Falls Airport in New York. That, after I did a bit of research, is about $1,600 American, or not, I'm sorry, $1,600 Canadian to bring 3 people across in a helicopter. And if you want your car brought across, they have arrangements with a commercial company to bring your vehicle across, and that's an additional $700 Canadian to do that. The point was made, why can't we do that here? So I've been researching companies that could do that. Charter companies that charter aircraft to do this wait for somebody who has the money to pay to come here. And then they go from the United States side. We, as the authority, if we wanted to, could charter an aircraft for $8,000 or $10,000 and hope we get enough people to get on the charter, which doesn't work. So I researched about 15 different companies in New York State, Ontario, and Quebec. 5 of them automatically were too far out of range. I talked to 7 other companies. Most of them have said no because the trip is from Ottawa to Ogdensburg, for a larger corporate aircraft or corporate sized aircraft, it's too short of a trip, basically. They would never get enough money in revenue to pay for that short hop. A couple,
You just make it, these are charters, not scheduled
Not
passengers.
scheduled.
Right.
There's two different, it's looked at two different ways
Okay.
by Customs and Border Protection, so.
Oh,
and
We're
okay.
and the
strictly
and the
talking
FAA. So
Charter.
these are charter. So these are private citizens asking somebody to fly them personally. I did have one good conversation with Corey's Copters, and they operate the Thousand Islands Air and Helicopter Tours. They are very interested. They are working with all the powers that be right now to make sure that everything is legal to make that crossing. I talked with Steve, and Steve was able to work with Customs and Border Protection. And so they are willing to come to the airport and do the customs. We have a number of things that still have to be worked out. They are working to finish up all of their legalities with the FAA right now, and they did have a good conversation with CBP. First of all, some advertising, we would do that jointly. They would advertise their way, we would advertise on our website and use our radio ads, what we currently have in place to do that. The second portion is those who want to cross and not fly, want their vehicles to cross. We still have to locate a commercial company who is willing to carry the vehicles across the border.
So it's a car carrier
Car
situation.
carrier type thing. The next thing that we would need to do, and this is all logistics, most of this can be handled internally. Because it is a charter service and not a commercial service, that business would take place on the fixed-based operator ramp, on the FBO ramp, not on the commercial ramp. So we would have to find a way to join the passengers with their vehicles or passengers with the connecting flight. I think that is something that can be worked out here internally. But we do have a few things. We do have a minivan. If we're properly insured to take people just that short distance, that would be great. But then you have the new COVID cleaning and protocols that we have to do to disinfect the van every time we use it, that kind of thing. But I think that is not insurmountable. And then our last hurdle, if you want to call it a hurdle, is making a determination on the airport fees for the helicopter company. Right now, a transient helicopter that comes in, it's a $50 fee. But if we're doing extra to get these passengers back and forth, we would work with the helicopter company, and our fees would be incorporated into their price, and then they would be paying us per trip. What I did find out in the company that does this in Buffalo, in that area, they do 4 to 6 trips a day with 3 people per flight, and they're pretty successful. So
What appeals to people to do what seems like a cumbersome transition instead of, let's say, flying to Florida directly?
They want their car.
They want their car.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
want their
so
car.
remember, this is kind of almost just like a ferry service.
Right.
You just come in to get your car, you won't be flying it. If you would be crazy, kind of going to what you're saying, if you're crazy coming in and then you're flying out, you can fly directly from Ottawa or Montreal to wherever you've got to go. So it's just strictly to get your RV or your car or wherever, and that would be your motivation. So, and then you look at how long, that's a limited period for snowbirds. And then you look at maybe by that time they're just going to drive home. So
Yes.
there's a window where you can catch some of this, and maybe by the time it's all in there, who knows? But
That's right.
We're just trying to see
Trying to
what's
get
out
some-
there.
Some more.
Right.
Interesting.
Yes, and although it makes sense for them to fly directly down to Florida,
Mhm.
actually, the prices are cheaper to fly out of Ogdensburg to Florida than they are to fly out of Ottawa into Florida, much cheaper.
So net cost might not be all
Bad.
increase.
Right.
Correct.
But if
Yeah.
you're staying there for 4 or 5 months, you need a vehicle, and rental prices are crazy right now.
Mhm.
So it
Yes.
doesn't really,
Right.
a couple $1,000s to get yourself and your car over. Oh, you kind of
Lots of
walk,
trips,
you know?
and stops along the way and
And there's lots of people with financial resources who are,
Yes.
they'll do that, no problem.
Yes, a lot of people have
Yeah.
homes in Florida.
I was honestly a little surprised at 4 to 6 trips a day. I was actually gonna ask you, like, what kind of frequency are we looking at? Like weekly,
4 to
daily?
4 to 6
But-
trips a day. They've been managing to do that. That's in Buffalo. One of the comments that was made was, we don't have the population here to try and make it work with a smaller aircraft. There are really only 3 places that they know that are doing this, and it's Buffalo, Detroit, and Montreal Plattsburgh.
Yeah, and remember with Plattsburgh, the one thing we ran into when we looked into this, or I looked into it, if you're taking scheduled flights, you have to have a CBP facility for clearance. They have to have a hold room, they have to have interview rooms, they have to have conference rooms. So looking toward the future, that may be something we need to incorporate in one of our projects
Mhm.
that, to be ready. Because if, say, someone wanted to do an Ottawa flight scheduled,
Mhm.
we couldn't do it. We don't have the facilities. So to have them at least labeled charter, that these possible flights chartered by CBP is a benefit to us right now. But if, the one thing that Plattsburgh has, they have those facilities. That's why and so it was already in place, and that's why it took off.
Mhm.
If we'd had them, I don't know, maybe that would be something that might have possibly come our way, but we don't have what's required by CBP to clear international flights.
Well, it's very interesting. I'm glad you're looking into it.
Yeah.
It's the specs, and I'm thinking it's gonna be a drawing with 8 or 10 pages, 494 pages. I'm like, whoa, what? And like the doors have to be a certain thickness. And I'm used to that with the FAA,
Right.
GSA. That's what they do. So, we're used to building to that standard, but it's just, I kind of wanted it simplified. No.
And did you say Corey's Copters, 3 people?
Well, that's,
Yes.
just remember, we're throwing out a name here.
Oh, no,
with
no,
No
right.
business.
Of course not. I know he's just I just referenced the
Yes.
person you spoke to. But
Yes.
for instance, in that prototype,
I'm
Yes.
probably
3
gonna-
to 4 people
Yeah,
in that
3 to
type
4
of,
people
right.
per trip. And maximum weight is 275 pounds, including your luggage
Per person.
per person.
Oh my God, I was gonna say, start your diet now.
They can't go. They can't.
Yeah.
Throw your bags, Dave.
But there again, if you have folks who are traveling to pick up their cars, their luggage will be in their cars already.
Right.
Very interesting.
Pat-
They're very
Patty-
enthusiastic about it.
Patty pointed that out, that a lot, and you were kind of talking about it, that people who travel and need their car also have all maybe home appliances and things. My parents did it for years. And you open up their trunk and there was a small TV and there was a toaster oven and everything. And it went back and forth to their place in Florida. Well, I imagine that it'll be similar
Yes.
to that, where
Right.
things are already packed, but Patty reminded me of that.
So I'm continuing to work with them and hopefully we can get something
Good.
going here in the next week or so.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Give you back your crown.
Sure.
We're on the port activity report.
Did you have any questions? We were talking about the snow thing there, and I know you had talked about it with it's definitely.
You had an opportunity to speak to an airline about such a proposal?
Well, not an airline, a helicopter company. They're very interested. They're in the process of working through what is required for the FAA. Thanks to Steve, we got in contact with Customs and Border Protection, and they are talking Customs, our local Customs and Border Protection is willing to help out and come to the airport. This would be charter, this would not be commercial, it would be charter flights. And hopefully we can get something moving here very, very soon.
You were just coming in when we were talking about, we do not have the facilities to clear a commercial scheduled international flight. Plattsburgh does. That's kind of why that took off.
Okay.
We don't have that, but we're able, if it's labeled a charter flight, they'll come out and they'll clear that individual flight. So until we, and what I mentioned, the rest of the word, until we put into our plans to include some of those type of facilities in future, so that we do have that in place. That's kind of where we were when you came in.
That's good. That'd be good. Good to have ready to go on the future. Excellent. Board report? That's where you're going?
That's where we're at.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, it's salt, road salt, and more road salt. The photo you see on the front there, the activity, that's our last stockpile. We would have been informed by one of our suppliers that, to their knowledge, that's we're pretty much done with them, but we're somewhere about 180,000 tons of salt on the port facility that I haven't seen that since 2007. They have a client that's purchased not quite half of that, so we're pretty well assured that a lot of that'll be gone by if there's a moderate winter, that'll be gone. But that's been very good to us. Patty can attest to that. We bring it up and everything there. Grain has been very steady. We're just about full with all of our flat storage. And we hear that there's possible more, a couple different products that may come, but we haven't seen them. But flat storage has been good too, and so is the storage of the road salt. So we're thankful for that. Any questions?
I guess not. Move on. All right, building occupancy report and industrial commercial prospect report. Patty, you doing that?
We have a new tenant in building 4, and we do have a resolution coming up for accepting their proposal to go into building 4. They will be in the old Veterans Affairs office, 850 square feet. We also have a current tenant who has just taken 7,600 square feet of building 1. Everything's right. So we have very little space left. We are still in discussion with the GSA for the possibility of the FedEx space, the office space. I don't think we have any longer the amount of space they're looking for, but they've actually come back to us asking if we have any chance that we could put in a bid for space. We do have the FedEx office, then the place where the hospital records were stored, that little space there. And so if we put carpet down and cut out a doorway into the FedEx space, they are contiguous. So we might be able to get close to what they're looking for. And then we would have very little left.
That'd be less than 5,000 feet
Just
total.
Yeah, we couldn't, if somebody wanted 5,000, it would be 800 here. I don't even think 3,000 we could find in 3 spots or anything. There's nothing. I don't think there's any more than 1,000 other than the FedEx space.
Couple of feet in the, in building one, but the way it's been split up in the past, I don't think it's usable space.
So basically, we're full.
Yeah.
And we have one small office in building one that if we get the tenant for for the FedEx space, there is one office being rented there, but we could move them to this office in building one. It is approximately, I think it's 8 square feet smaller than the room they have. So that would be, we'd be done.
Could you send me an email to that effect? And I think by the time we start our budget discussions, Chris, we might want to put that into the discussion. The fact that we're out of space and what our options may be for the next fiscal year. Whatever that may be.
Sure.
Anything else?
No.
Any other questions of Patty regarding building occupancy or the commercial prospect report? Nicole? What's it on? Is Tony on?
Tony's here, yeah.
Tony?
I'm on. Nope, I'm good. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on. Unfinished business. Mr. Lawrence, do we have any?
None, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Business items? A1, approval of the employee handbook.
I think that's me.
Yes. You're the star today.
I believe everyone has the employee handbook. It was sent out to everyone to peruse. This says attached, it was previously sent, is the employee handbook for management confidential employees. The Personnel Committee was provided with and reviewed the handbook on the 17th of August. The committee recommended that the handbook be put before the Board of Directors for approval. So be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority does hereby approve the attached employee handbook for management and confidential employees.
Thank you. Jen, I'm assuming you gave a report beforehand on that, or?
Not at this meeting, previous
Last board
meeting,
meeting,
right.
September board meeting.
Okay.
Took some recommendations from a consultant. There were a few additions and
Anything to add?
nothing to add.
Tony, you're on that committee. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I thought everything looked really good, and I'm happy with it.
Okay. Resolution is before you. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
Ms. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Move on to agenda item A2.
On the result of the Personnel Committee report, the authority is seeking to hire a Director of Economic Development. This position was reviewed by the Personnel Committee and previously approved by the board. The position will be advertised for a 2-week period, including 2 consecutive Sundays. Advertisements will be placed in or on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, North Country Now, Watertown Daily Times, Plattsburgh Press Republican, and the Burlington Free Press. The cost for these advertisements will not exceed $6,500. We have, and if everybody agrees to it, if the Personnel Committee likes it, we've redesigned the ad to include our logo, to bullet point some of the items so that while it will be a bigger ad, it will be easier to read, easier to get through the information. The only addition was the salary was not in the bottom of the ad that I worked up, but we will add that before it gets sent out. So the resolution resolved that the executive director is hereby authorized to enter into contracts with the following companies to advertise the position of Director of Economic Development at a cost not to exceed $6,500. Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, North Country Now, Watertown Daily Times, Plattsburgh Press, Republican, and Burlington Free Press.
Okay. Jen? Again, I missed, I didn't know if you had discussed this beforehand or not.
We did. It was covered, fairly directly in my report, just that we need to, repost the position. Prior candidates really did not possess the necessary skills and experience we're looking for. So we talked
Excellent.
about increasing the salary, reposting.
That's exactly what it is. I think it was my desire and obviously the board's that we try to recruit someone who has prior experience in economic development. I don't believe those who had applied before had that experience we're looking for. And maybe this time out with a higher salary, that might be possible. Makes sense to me.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
Do we need to talk about the timeline for the advertising, or can we do that? Like, how will we decide that? Does that need to be part of the resolution? Like when it will begin, or I'm not sure what we do if this passes
We weren't
Sunday.
sure when we did that, but
Okay.
what are you thinking, something?
Are you gonna start this weekend and?
Probably next weekend, because we have to make sure that the ad is, we have to get the quotes on the advertising.
Right.
And then we'll know where we are within the $6,500
Okay. Makes
So
sense.
probably I'd say by
next
next
week.
week,
Right.
we
Yeah.
should have all that in place.
2 days in advance.
So
they-
sooner rather than later.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The online advertisements, I think you usually get a box, so you put in basically the information that we have on the written ad, and you would just put that into
I see.
the associated boxes.
Okay.
Tony, you concur?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. She's the other member of the personnel committee. Okay, the resolution is before you. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Been moved?
I'll second it.
Second.
That delay.
That delay, that internet delay. Motion
Sorry
been
about
made and
that.
seconded. Oh,
okay.
that's fine. Any further discussion? Not Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Quirk Pittman?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Why did we jump from A to C? Is that?
Because there's no.
Oh,
There's no
I
B.
have to look at my
It's
page,
quiet.
I guess. We'll go to C1.
Approval of a lease agreement with 5G Technologies USA Limited. This is a Canadian company.
I think with KDM was on
What was that first?
KDM's first.
I'm sorry.
the one.
Approval of supplemental lease agreement number 2 with KDM Analytics. Staff has negotiated lease supplement number 2 with KDM Analytics for the rental of 128 square feet of space in the 4th Industrial Building for a 1-year extension from September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2022 at a rate of $128 a month, including utilities. All other terms and conditions of the original lease agreement shall remain in full force and effect and are hereby ratified and affirmed. The resolution is before you. Any questions?
How long have they been with us?
This is 3 years.
3 years? 3 years. Good. I'm glad they renewed. Is there a motion?
Also move.
Made,
Second.
seconded? Any further discussion? Emery, call the roll, please.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Whitty?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Ms. Clerk Pittman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
You. Agenda item C2.
Approval of lease agreement with 5G Technologies USA. This is a Canadian company who has a subsidiary who is a corporation incorporated in the state of Delaware. They are a computer development implementation specialty company. Staff has negotiated a lease agreement with a new tenant, 5G Technologies USA Limited, for 850 square feet of office space in the 4th Industrial Building of the Industrial Park campus for a 6-month initial period from October 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022, at a rate of $6 per square foot, equaling $425 monthly, or the equivalent of $5,100 annually. 5G Technologies will be able to extend this lease in minimum 6-month increments. 5G Technologies USA will be responsible for its prorated share of utilities. The resolution is before you.
What exactly do they do?
Software implementation and development,
How many employees do they anticipate, do you know?
3.
3? Now, this is their first, what'd you say, they're in Delaware?
They're incorporated in the state of Delaware.
We are calling you from the Department of Social Security Administration. The reason you received this phone call from our department is to inform you that there's a legal enforcement action filed on your Social Security number for fraudulent activities. So, when you get this message, press 1 to connect with the next available officer. Thank you.
Second time?
Yeah.
Somebody
Back it in, yeah.
Good morning.
Okay,
I have a quick question.
sure.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the 6 months. Do we typically do that, or is that just a unique request?
This is unique to
Okay.
this company. They had requested month to month after the first 6 months, and we said we could do it in 6-month
Okay.
increments. This is their first big foray, I believe, into having an actual US office.
I
So
see.
they want to see how it goes.
So that's reasonable. Yeah, okay.
And they'll be bringing their own computers, et cetera, with them.
Mhm.
So it's not going to be lugging great amounts of material here. Will just be computers. et cetera.
Okay.
And, you know, if they were to offer, say they wanted a year, we could actually, there's a trade-off there.
Right.
That's a premium that they're paying right now for the 6
Okay.
months. We might consider lowering that rate
For a
for a
longer.
longer term, but we balanced it with they first said month to month. And
Yeah.
so we just kind of compromised, but also there's a premium for that. And then
Okay.
if they wanted to go longer, we could talk about, negotiate something a little bit different.
Right.
So
Good
it's
way to
just-
handle it. Yeah.
Patty's been working with them for a good 2 months.
Yeah.
Very patient, and
Yeah.
she actually went over and got photos, and she's even volunteered some of our old furniture to get her started, which
Nice.
that's recycle, reuse.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. Thanks, Patty.
Well, let's hope that they're successful and can expand in the future. Certainly glad to have them. Is there a motion?
Also move.
Second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Maddie Emery, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whitty?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Ms. Clerk Pittman?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, agenda item C3.
approval of additional lease space agreement with Strader Ferris. Staff has negotiated a lease supplement with Strader Ferris International for an additional 7,658 square feet of warehouse space in the first industrial building for a 2-year period from October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. We negotiated with that they would pay $3.50 per square foot for the first year, $4.50 per square foot for the second year. In addition, Strader Ferris will pay the prorated share of utilities for its space in Building 1, and all other terms and conditions of the original lease agreement they have with the authority shall remain in full force and effect and are hereby ratified and affirmed. The resolution is before you.
I will add one thing. Strader Ferris has been a long time tenant here, well over, I want to say 25 years.
I think it's 1998 or 1988.
Yeah, and we wanted to, we recognize that, and they have won an entire building and been very good tenant. And they recognize that we have financial needs too, but we came to an agreement, but that low rate was really a recognition of them wanting to take more space, but also being a very good tenant. And we just felt that was the right thing to do on that. So if you but you see that the rate does increase and they agree, but we wanted to honor that and them being a very good tenant.
Good. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved,
Second?
seconded? Any further discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Manelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Ms. Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes,
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Motion carries.
thank you. Agenda item D1.
This is a lease agreement for Hangar 4 at the Ogdensburg International Airport. This is a long-term tenant. He is just renewing his lease under the same standards that we have for everyone else. And to read the resolution, be it resolved that the executive director is hereby authorized and directed to execute a transfer and storage agreement with Soaring Eagle Aviation for hangar space at the Ogdensburg International Airport at the rate of $215 per month for a period of October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022.
This keeps,
Just a little typo.
Yes,
this keeps this full.
yes, it does.
Good. A motion.
I'll make a
I'll move
motion.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Nadia, Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Ms. Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes,
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Mr. Manelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
you. Agenda item D2. I have some questions on this. I would actually like to ask for a executive session to discuss this because it does deal with contract with McFarland Johnson. Need a motion?
Also move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nicole?
Aye.
Thought you all- Anyone opposed? If not, it is 5:35. We'll go into executive session.
Yep, he's gone.
Yeah, I saw him pull away. That's too bad. Okay, we're back in public session. We have agenda item D2 before us. Who's going through that?
McFarland Johnson has submitted to the OBPA requesting approval of an attached extra work authorization, EWA number 1, engineering agreement for construction administration and observation services for AEP grant number 33600890054, 2019 runway 27 extension, phase 2, construction of runway 27 Malls F at the Augsburg International Airport. The cost of the EWA number 1 is $53,938 and is to be funded according to the following breakdown. FAA 95%, $51,241.10, 2%, 2.5% by the DOT and the OBPA of amount of $1,348.45. Staff recommends approval of this agreement with McFarland Johnson.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Not Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Coughlin,
Yes.
Ms. Quirk Pittman,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Whitten,
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli,
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Move on to agenda item E1. The warrant, I'm assuming.
Agenda item E1 is approval of base bid award for the front end loader to Milton Cat. This is in relation to purchasing equipment through our Chrissy grant funding. Just to give you a background on that. And we did bid the front end loader earlier this summer. The low bidder was not able to, did not meet the Buy American requirement. So this is a rebid. The authority solicited bids on September 30th, 2021 for the purchase of a new 2021 four-wheel drive front end loader for the Port of Augsburg. The authority received one bid from Milton Cat, Milford, Massachusetts for a Cat 972M 2021 four-wheel drive front end loader with a 7 cubic yard bucket. Based on the attached bid analysis and available Chrissy grant funding, and Chrissy stands for Consolidated Rail Infrastructure Safety Improvement Program. And the vendor's qualifications, staff is recommending award of the bid to Milton Cat for $443,775. The project is being funded as follows. Chrissy grant is picking up 80% of that cost, $355,000 and $355.20, and the OBPA will be picking up 20% of that cost, which is $88,755 for a total of $443,775. Any questions on all of that?
What will this do for us?
This will significantly improve our reliability for loading, especially large. This is a much larger loader, and it has an interchangeable bucket, which allows, the bucket doesn't come with it, but we'll get that in. There's a changeover implement that's put on the loader that allows us to use our current forks and our current bucket. So we'll have two loaders that can interchange with a forklift or a large grain bin or grain bucket. So we already have those purchased, so we'll be able to interchange with that, and then it'll get us much more reliability for the amount of salt we have and the amount of grain. We'll have two loaders. Currently, the smaller loader is only a little under, it's about 4 cubic yards, or whereas 7 really, it's less repetition. We're seeing larger trucks. This one has a high lift capability. I know a lot of the salt trucks coming in are going to be that much higher, to where with the other loader, we had to make like a small ramp just to get it up on there. It can be done, but it makes us more efficient. It also, once we get this purchased, we don't have to rent extra loaders for, if you recall, we did the We did unload Chilean salt, and we had to rent extra loaders because ours weren't capable. That means you have to pay mold costs to bring them in and take them out, and the rental just goes right off of your profit. So with a lot of this Chrissy grant equipment, it'll be really revenue generating. And for example, when we did the wood pellets, to have a loader like this really would have been nice. We were able to rent them, but we give that rent up to other people and the mold costs too, but also will help us reduce that cost to where maybe you can entice somebody else to come along with another project.
Did you say there was no bucket that came with this?
There is one, it'll come with its own bucket.
Oh, because I said 7 yards, that's why I was.
Yes, it'll have its own, but we do have a separate grain bucket and we have a forklift bucket.
That you can put on this.
Right, so, but we just need to equip it with the Quick Connect with that.
So this makes support more efficient and more cost effective.
Correct.
When was the last time we bought a piece of equipment down there?
2012, we bought the cat.
2012.
We bought the cat loader. We are leasing the Hyundai,
Right.
which is 2017, I believe.
But this is ours,
This will be ours.
2012.
Yeah. Yes.
Long overdue.
Don't ask me about pickup trucks either.
Long overdue.
What is the anticipated demand? I mean, typically for our board, what would you anticipate?
For being an assault.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it compares to
It
a
depends
car.
on who you're
like-
talking to. I can make them last a lot.
Okay, no,
longer.
that's good.
But the cost, the added cost, that you put into, there's gonna come to a point where you go, do you rebuild an engine?
Right.
We haven't gotten to that part,
Okay.
but being in a really difficult environment with salt,
Mhm.
we've gone through turbos, you go through a lot of radiators.
Okay,
You're running grain and salt through them and corrosion, and you do the best you can to clean them,
okay.
and you can never, I forget what the gist of your question.
So just,
Lifespan.
we're like
Lifespan.
lifespan, I know it's gonna take
Oh,
wear
you
and
should
tear and
be
maintenance.
turning, yeah, if you keep them decently, I would say after 4 or 5 years, you should be looking at replacing it, and either auctioning it off or rotating those
Oh, okay.
off.
Yeah, because in my head, I was thinking like maybe 10 years, so no, half of that
Um,
typically.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Do they
would say
come?
outside 5 to 6 years, and then you're gonna start running into
Okay.
issues.
Now, I know this is another, because I know really nothing about this, but any kind of warranty
Yes.
or, okay, on parts, on,
Like drivetrains usually are 3 years. I haven't looked at everything on there, but they met what we asked for. Sometimes they give you more, but on drivetrains, I think it's 3 years. And
okay.
then just a general for everything on it's 1 year.
And we just would haul it to wherever?
Excuse me?
We would just haul this piece of equipment to where it's purchased? To,
Oh,
Cat?
if it got that bad, but generally Cat has they have road people that come in, they work in our
Okay.
shop.
thanks.
So.
I didn't mean to like
No, but
veer
if-
off. It's just kind of interesting to
But
me.
if
so,
you
like-
needed an engine rebuild, they'd come and get it,
Okay.
and take it to their shop. And some of those repairs, it's actually cheaper. They don't know how long they're gonna have it. It's actually cheaper to get a independent, low boy and send it down to them and fix it, but it's very rare.
Okay,
Tires are one thing that you go through.
Okay. right.
With that.
Any idea on delivery of it? It
Um,
just says here, whenever.
Yeah.
I'm thinking just back and forth with the supplier. They're saying March or April.
Before next year's season.
Oh, okay.
Just as it starts.
We, just so you know that we did ask for an extension on our Chrissy grant. Partly because of supply chain, but also partly because of finance. We're on the hook out of this $1 million, 200,000 is ours, as I mentioned to you earlier, we're gonna go over that when we get these all together, just because of the timing. We're gonna go over that $1 million to where anything over $1 million belongs to us. So to ease Patty's concerns a little bit, we bump that out to December so that hopefully we can knock each one out as they come to us. And we have well, I'm not gonna give you, but we have a
I think we lost the volume.
Yeah, Nicole, I can hear you. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, and Jennifer can hear us, but not the boardroom, right? Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Hear me now? Can you hear us in the boardroom?
I did shoot Anne Marie a text to let her know that we can't hear them, but I'm not sure if she has her phone or not. So
I'm sending her messages through the chat and she's responding to me, but
Can you hear us now?
yes.
Okay, so now, okay, so it's through this computer though, so you'll have to speak up.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
so
Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
motion carries.
then item E2 for
item E2 is approval of bid award for rail car transfer conveyor U.S. Materials Handling Corp. This is also an improvement of from a grant, a Christie grant.
for improvement of our equipment down at Port Pond. The authority solicited bid on September 30th, 2021 to purchase a 2021 rail car transloader conveyor for the lobby. The authority received 2 bids from U.S. Material Handling Corporation, Syracuse, New York, for a 2021 rail car transloader conveyor. The bid results are as follows. U.S. Material Corporation they submitted for the manufacturer Schnell. It is not Buy American compliant, but the bid amount was $177,028. They also submitted a Buy American compliant Gruber conveyor for $198,819. As I said, the bid for the Schnell manufacturer conveyor was rejected because it did not meet the Buy American requirements to bid that. Based on the attached bid analysis and available Christie funding, the vendor qualification staff is recommending award of the bid to U.S. Materials Handling Corp. For the Gruber conveyor in the amount of $198,819. The project cost $198,819, which we fund as follows. The Consolidated Rail Infrastructure Safety Improvement Program, the acronym CRISP. 80% would be $159,055 and 20 cents. The 20% that would be responsibility of the Bridge and Port Authority is $39,762.80 for a total of $198,892,000. Question. I will say I really haven't seen where they submitted 2 bids just basically on Buy American. They wanted a number of companies to say they couldn't use the Buy American. And we ran into this is a rebid also. And the Buy American is a lot of companies use that. And they are can apply for a waiver, but the waiver should take 8 to 12 months. And to go through all of that, maybe have denied the conflict with getting our funding in place. So we really couldn't allow that. So we are, as you can see, there's really roughly $20,000 more put into the finance.
So I was told one of the things to improve the resolution. What we want.
198 and 433, 443. Figure roughly 200,000. Figure roughly 650,000. So you have, then we have 2 more conveyors that have to be built. You've got $350,000 left. That will take care of 1 conveyor. And then the smaller conveyor is going to run somewhere between 180 and 220. So that's 20% of it, 250. That next conveyor will be a long one. But we can't, we said we were going to get 4 pieces of equipment. We can't say because we have funding, but that's not fair to people that so that's the reason. Originally we already asked for a waiver because there were 5 pieces put in there and the pricing for that was incredibly low. We couldn't do anything with it. So we did allow it. They wanted, the original one had 2 loads at $250,000. It's just impossible. So they allowed us to scratch one of those loads and so forth. The other thing is this grant has been here for almost a year now. It wasn't acted on. The chairman knows kind of the history of that. So that delay, and then especially COVID, obviously we're paying much higher price than what I originally went out for. And that was part of our, and that's part of the reason too that we got the waiver to allow that. This will, we do have a very good conveyor down there now. In 10 years, this will really get us a lot of redundancy for for that. And also, it does allow, there's a truck loading capacity, so one truck can back up to it and dump off it, you can go around. Which, you know,
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second. There is a delivery day on there, right?
yes, by the end of the
Year.
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded, any discussion? Then recall the roll, please.
Ms. Quirk Pickman?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten? Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
Motion carried.
You have been to item F1. Approval of supplemental easement agreement number 2 with Network for 181. The staff has negotiated easement supplement number 2 with Split Network Solutions for an easement located on an authority railroad crossing on Stevenson Road, Town of Blueton. The easement effective August 1st, 2021, is extended for 5 years and will terminate July 31st, 2026. Select agrees to pay the authority to sell $2,500 for the 5-year term easement as defined in the original agreement for 181. All of the terms and conditions of the original easement agreement shall remain in full force in effect and are hereby ratified in effect. Motion? Make motion. Second?
Second?
Discussion? None, Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten? Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
Ms. Quirk Pickman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Agenda item F2. Approval of supplemental easement agreement number 2 with Select Network for 180. Staff negotiated easement supplement number 2 with Select Network Solutions for an easement located on an authority railroad crossing on County Route 47, Town of Norfolk, New York. The easement effective August 1st, 2021 is extended for 5 years and will terminate July 31st, 2026. Select agrees to pay the authority to sell $2,500 for the 5-year term of the easement as defined in the original agreement for all other terms and conditions of the original easement agreement shall remain in full force and effect and are hereby ratified. Thank you. Motion? Second? Any discussion? And Ray, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whitten? Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King? Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
Ms. Quirk Pickman?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Agenda item F3. Approval of supplemental lease agreement number 7 with William Murray. Staff has negotiated lease supplement number 7 with William Murphy for a 200 by 200 foot parcel on the northwest corner of Buck Road for the period beginning May 1st, 2021 and terminating on April 30th, 2026. The rent for this parcel shall be $500 per year. The lease should raise its catalog. All of the terms and conditions of the original lease agreement shall remain in full force and effect and are hereby ratified in the past. Boom. Second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. King? Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Ms. Cook Pickman?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitney? Motion carries.
Laura, anything else?
Mr. Chairman.
Any concluding comments from, board members? Matt? Anything? Okay, next meeting date, December 4th. Wow, November.
Don't try to skip one. Yeah.
So I have a Potsdam Town Board meeting that day.
And I'll-
Better day,
I'll-
Kelly? Go?
I'll be in Albany.
Okay.
Okay. And? 1 o'clock?
Can you do the 10th, Nicole?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Wednesday the 10th? It's the second Wednesday of the month?
That day is fine with me.
I don't know if this would make sense. I'm thinking about our job posting. Like if we look at our timeline of 2 weeks of advertising and then potential interview, like it'd be nice if our next board meeting we get approved. So if we push our board meeting a little bit later in the month, would that be possible? So we are looking at maybe posting this from, when did we say this would be started on Friday? So Friday the 15th, right? For 2 weeks, for the 29th. We did our interviews. We did interviews anytime between like the 1st and the 12th, those 2 weeks. We had our board meeting the next week, hopefully. Both are good for me.
I can do 16. Okay. Chris?
Was that the 15th? Is that?
16th, Tuesday?
I'm not here on the 16th.
Then we can just turn on, it sounds like, I just wanted to put that out there, but it sounds like this time is good for everybody. Stick with that, and then we'll just have a special.
Or maybe could we have the interviews the first week of November? No? Okay.
Hopefully.
Oh, Steve's shaking his head.
No, I don't know, it's just getting too complicated right
Okay.
But just go
That
over
was
the
just
go back over the
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
4 o'clock, 4:30, what time? 4? Hey, you good with 4?
I'm sorry, it's really hard to hear now that we've switched over. So what date is this?
They're saying the 10th of November at 4 o'clock.
Okay, yes, that's fine with me.
That work for Nicole?
No, but that's okay. I'm sure they'll have a forum.
Going to Albany on our behalf?
Am I, no, that night I actually have a internship meeting, regularly scheduled. I can't get out of it.
So you're actually working? I couldn't, she opened the door, I had to go through it. Okay, the 10th and, November 10th, 4 p.m.
Yeah, it'll work out.
Mr. Lawrence, is there a need for executive session?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Good? Sure. Nicole, any need for executive session?
No, I don't think so.
Tony?
No, I think we're okay.
Okay, second. All right, in that case, there a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made,
Second?
seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.